Hi, welcome, Amelia, to the third episode of Market Hub. We are currently recording these episodes for Market Hub because we want to create content for business owners that are looking for ethical and compassionate marketing tips. We find that these days, because of AI and because there's just so much buzz in the market, people are not really getting the information they need. There's just so much information out there, they don't really know which one to follow. So we are we are on a mission to create content that resonates with business owners and gives them exact tips as to how they can grow their business through marketing. We are a digital marketing agency in Melbourne. And so we are currently in the midst of talking to different business owners like Custom Neon, and asking them how social media has helped them grow their business over the years.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming, Amelia. Amelia is currently from Custom Neon. She's the social media manager of Custom Neon. Custom Neon has been around for 6 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've worked with them for about 4?
Yeah.
Awesome. So a little bit about Custom Neon. Custom Neon has been around for 6 years, is owned by a couple who initially started Custom Neon 6 years ago just from scratch.
Yeah.
And now they have grown into having 133,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
Over 5,000 customers, is it?
No, I think it's 50.
Sorry, it's 55,000.
Yeah.
55,000 customers around Australia or around the world?
Around the world.
Around the world.
Yeah.
Okay. The product looks amazing. I mean, you can see it on the images there. We'll also link Custom Neon in our episode.
Yeah.
So everyone can check it out. I am definitely going to order a Custom Neon for my office so I can have Market Hub written behind my wall.
Amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. We will start the podcast by having you briefly discuss the history of Custom Neon and how you came about to working for Custom Neon.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Custom Neon is the world's sort of most loved and trusted LED neon company. So we make customized light signs. And we started in Australia, and we're now a global company. So we've got teams in the US, the UK, and Australia, and sort of other team members scattered all over the globe. I have been working with Custom Neon for 4 years now. I began in a social media assistant role, sort of working as a graphic designer as well, and then have sort of moved up into the social media manager role as we've sort of scaled and grown, which has been great experience. It's great to see the company grow how it has.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds amazing. So from what I can gather, Custom Neon started 6 years ago from scratch.
Yeah.
So what was their main strategy to grow the business? Was it social media?
Custom Neon actually initially started just as like an Instagram page. Jess and Jake started the business, and I think originally we're taking orders just by DMs over Instagram. So really startup vibes.
Yeah, very much
and
so.
from there, website started and all of that. I guess social media was integral to the starting the business and getting the growth that we've seen. I think launched in the market at the right time. Like there was not a lot of competitors around during that time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I remember Custom Neon from 6 years ago and seeing it just on socials. And there's been so many different brands that have popped up since then.
Yeah.
So definitely Custom Neon was one of the first ones
Yeah.
to start it. And it looks beautiful. Like just the whole brand looks amazing. I was in love with it when I first saw it.
Thank you.
I wanted to also talk to you about, yes, you guys started your marketing strategy through Instagram. When was the pivotal moment for you guys when it really took off on Instagram?
Yeah, I think I guess the initial strategy around social media was, post as much as you can. Because our product is custom, pretty much every single sign that we make is different, and it's showing like the breadth of what we can do with our product. people are getting everything turned into neon signs, like their kid's name, their business name, you can get, a picture of yourself turned into neon, like everything. So I think that was our strategy at the start. Like, let's show off as much as we can do.
Right.
And yeah, as we do that, just continued to grow.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I'm not sure whether that was a pivotal moment. I think it's been pretty consistent growth.
Okay.
But yeah, I think where we are now is, we've got a solid strategy. We know exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
And it's working.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So initially you had a lot of different target audience.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the business owners,
Yeah.
you had the parents,
Yeah.
you had the people who wanted their face as neon
Yeah.
custom signs. When did you sort of create the different target audiences, and are you still following all those target audiences, or you are now focusing more on, let's say, business?
Yeah. I think there probably was a time, like we sort of did break down, who is our demographic. And yeah, like you said, we've got the parents, sort of the consumer side of the business, so the people that are buying signs for their home, kids room, their man cave, weddings. That was a huge sort of a huge audience for us. And I think, looking back at that pivotal moment question, potentially that's when things changed. During COVID, we were doing a lot of weddings, and then COVID hit, and we were like, can't do this anymore. So that's probably when things did change a little bit.
Okay. Did you see a raise in people ordering more neon signs
We actually
during
did.
COVID?
Yeah,
because they were
growth.
Yeah.
Which I guess you'd probably expect it to go the opposite way, but I think we lost that sort of wedding and events side of the business, but people were, doing things to their home, DIY.
Yes.
So that side grew. And then I think coming out of that, the B2B side of the business has really grown. And,
I see.
Seeing a lot of success there at the moment.
Amazing. Okay, so have you done research on how your signs are sort of contributing to businesses? What sort of stats do you have around it?
Yeah, for sure. I guess signage is so important to businesses, and I think a neon sign is an investment in your business because you're showing people who you are as a brand. And I think, standing out is so important today. There's so many businesses on social media, so many businesses out there. So showing who you are as a brand is so important. We conducted a study in 2021 and found that I think 79% of consumers are drawn to bright and colorful signage. And they also say that the quality of signage reflects the quality of the business or the product or service offered.
I see.
Yeah.
So you are seeing a direct sort of, or semi-direct effect on businesses and how they're growing because of, let's say, custom signage and how it's displayed within the business.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, with our signage, it is very shareable and people are taking photos of it because it's bright and it's fun and it looks great.
Yeah.
So, a business is getting a sign, a retail store, for example, getting a sign, people are taking photos of it, posting about it. That posting is then growing the brand awareness, and then, it's directly correlated to business sales, I think.
For sure.
Yeah.
How do you make sure? So I'm guessing you receive a lot of tags on Instagram.
Yeah.
How do you make sure people actually know who to tag properly? Because it can be quite confusing.
Yeah.
If, for example, let's say a custom neon sign is in a gym and people are taking photos in front of a gymmer, let's say, and it's in the background.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that people are actually tagging you properly? Is it the gym owners or?
Yeah, we see people that are actually tagging us are probably more the business owners.
Yes. Okay.
And we, on our packaging of our signs, we say, like, we'd love for you to share this and tag us, which they tend to do. And I think, like I said, because it's such a shareable, product, we tend to see a lot of that. But then, I think we're also searching for that content ourselves as a business. If we know that a local gym has a sign and we know that, we'll look at their tagged photos and then see lots of photos of our product, which, it's that UGC, user generated content, that is so beneficial.
Yes. Yeah. That was my next question.
Yeah.
How are you using UGC in your strategy?
Yeah. We use it in everything that we do. Okay. I think when we started the business and we were really heavily reliant on UGC, like I said, to show the breadth of the product and everything that we do create. And it was featured all over our socials, website, email, everything. And I think now we're at a stage where we still do really heavily rely on UGC. But we're also, doing our own photo and video shoots and creating our own content.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. So that includes photo shoots as well?
Yeah, photo and video shoots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. And do you heavily use influencers as well?
Yeah,
Yes.
we've done a bit of influencer work.
Yes.
And seen success with that. I think,
Okay.
it's been good to just use that and see, have them creating content for us that we can, provide some more structure around it and really getting, whether it's a testimonial or they're creating content of a sign going into their home. That's been really valuable as part of our strategy too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of how many influencers you're currently dealing with?
I can't give you I can't think of an actual number. No, but working with a few every sort of month, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is okay. Every a few different ones. Are they different?
Yeah, we tried to sort of hit those target
Yes.
target audiences that I spoke about before. So, we've got influencers that are parents that we've worked with and that are redoing their, nursery or setting up their baby's room, hitting those like smaller business owners that are also sort of influencers and working with them for weddings, events, things like that as well. So
Sure.
yeah, I think when we first started influencer marketing, it was like, let's give it all a go and see what works. And now we've sort of refined the strategy. We know what works for us as a business.
Okay.
Which is why we're probably working with less influencers because we know what works. So yeah.
Exactly. And you know who to work with now.
Exactly. Doing it in a more strategic way to get the content that we want. And I think that's probably the main goal for us with influencer marketing. I think it used to be sort of make the influencers post about it and drive sales that way. And whilst we saw some success with that, I think the most valuable thing for us as a business is let's get them to create a great piece of content for us that then we can use as a brand and use across all our channels. And it's going to be a longer lifespan worth of content as well. We can use it for a while.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. I get this question a lot from business owners when they get into influencer marketing. One thing is they don't know who to contact. And the second thing is they don't know how to contact them either. So what are your tips on those two things?
We do have a lot of people who actually reach out to us, like a lot of influencers actually reach out to us and want a neon sign, and there's even people who are considering purchasing one and are like, I am actually an influencer, I would love to work with you guys.
Yeah.
And I think that has been important in our strategy because I think those influencers are more engaged with your company. They actually want the product. They're actually, it's a genuine, if they're giving a testimonial, for example, it's a genuine testimonial because they actually wanted to purchase the product anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's been really beneficial for us. But in terms of reaching out to find them, I think, making sure you're working with influencers that really resonate with your brand and who you are and align, because I think, that's so important. And you do want that authenticity with their content. So
for sure.
Yeah.
So are you more focused on the macro influencers or micro influencers?
Micro influencers, I think we've seen, deliver sort of better content.
Yes.
And are more willing to sort of go above and beyond for you to make sure that you're both happy with the deliverables and the outcome.
For sure. Have you ever engaged with a macro influencer?
Yeah, we've worked with a few. Majority of our the stuff we do with influencers is gifted.
Yes.
So I think that sort of potentially determines the type of influencers that we do work with. But we've tried them all.
Awesome. Yeah, nice. Tried them all. Have you received better results from micro or macro?
I would say micro.
Yeah,
which I think a lot of businesses find.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have found that as well myself.
Yeah.
Micro influencers tend to have a better engagement.
Yes, 100%.
And since they are niche influencers in their niche, they tend to have a better influence over people.
Agree.
Yeah. So it seems like micro influencing seems to be a better option
100%.
for business owners, especially if they're starting out.
Agree.
Yes.
Yeah. And I even think of myself as a consumer and someone that is, pretty active online.
Yes.
I would be more willing to trust a micro influencer, I think, because, it's not, it's that authenticity, I think.
Yes.
And that trust factor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if a business owner is not receiving requests
Mhm.
from influencers.
Yeah.
How do they then go about reaching out?
Mhm.
Have you ever done that?
Yeah. I think, like I said, trying to find influencers that really sit within your brand and align with who you are.
Yeah.
There's lots of different platforms you can use. I think there's like the TikTok, I think it's called the TikTok Creator Hub.
Yeah.
There's a similar one for Meta as well. So you can go on there and look for influencers.
Yeah.
And lots of different platforms like that
Yeah.
exist. And I think, reach out to them, tell them what you're offering, what you're willing to give them in exchange for content. And I think that's a good way to find them.
Awesome. Have you ever used Tribe?
No, we haven't, but I have
Okay.
definitely heard about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was one of the first influencer marketing kind of platform.
Yeah, in
to
Australia.
connect. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So in terms of your content, I do know that you've had reels
Mm-hmm.
that have gone viral.
Yes.
Up to 1.1 million views, I think it was.
Yeah.
On one reel.
Yes.
What do you think about videos that go viral? Is
Mhm.
it useful for the company, or it takes a few different reels to go viral for you to see some kind of change in the business?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I agree with that.
Yeah.
We sort of shifted our content strategy mainly on like TikTok and Reels recently. We found that the behind the scenes content really showing who we are as a brand, showing our team, has been performing really well for us. And that's sort of, the strategy that we're moving forward with. I think there's been a rise in that like employee generated content, where, it's the team talking about the product or talking about, what they're doing during their work day and just things like that.
Simple things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's building that trust factor. People are probably more willing to purchase from a brand when they know who's behind it.
Yes.
Especially when there's so many competitors in the market. If you can see who you're actually purchasing from, I think, you're more likely to trust them.
For sure.
So we sort of rolled that strategy out and have really been showing lots of different things. And the video that you were referencing was our team at like a workshop that we did. We all made our own neon sign, and it was like a product knowledge sort of session, learning about the product. We made a reel of it, and it went viral. I think 1.1 million views, 50K likes.
Wow.
It did really well. And since then we have had a few viral videos.
Okay.
And I think it's building that brand awareness to start with, building the engagement, and then we've seen that has had an impact on revenue.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so once you have gone viral with one video, you are more likely to go viral with other videos.
I think so, to an extent.
To an extent.
The algorithm's always changing.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you can't really
true.
trust it. But
And it depends on the quality of your work.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. But people who say, "Oh, I just want to go viral."
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that?
I think you need to have a strategy behind it.
Yeah.
I think, yes, it's great to go viral, but it's not always going to result in, conversions or, whatever you're aiming for. I think, yes, there is merit to it, but I think you need to have reasoning behind it, I guess. And it's,
sure.
Yeah, I think with putting time and effort into creating videos like that, it's like, what's the outcome here? What are we putting our time into? And virality doesn't always equal success, I guess.
For sure.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay. So you have recently gone from Instagram to sharing content on TikTok.
Yes.
How's that going?
Yeah, it's our TikTok is definitely growing. That's sort of probably the platform where we started to do that like behind the scenes sort of content.
Yeah.
And where we saw success with it, and then we've sort of implemented that strategy on Instagram Reels as well. But I think TikTok it's a very interesting platform. Again, the algorithm changes so much.
Yes.
And I think the audience is slightly different on the platform. But we found that it's worked for us so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So do you have any idea as to what kind of revenue you're getting from social media compared to your other channels?
I think, I'd probably need to look at the stats for it.
Yeah.
I think it definitely contributes. And I think, it's all a contributor. When you look at that direct traffic, I think when we are doing different things on social, you can see an impact through there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see revenue coming in through different channels? Yeah. And do you invest in performance marketing as well?
Yes.
Okay. So you have performance marketing coming through referrals, perhaps.
Yeah.
Social media.
Yeah.
What else? SEO?
Yeah.
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 Okay. So you guys have done work on SEO as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
as an e-commerce business, sometimes people think that SEO is not relevant. Do you disagree or do you agree?
I disagree. I think
Yeah.
SEO has been like integral in sort of shaping and growing the business into what it is today.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have an agency that works with you for SEO or somebody else?
So two of the business owners are like SEO specialists. So they do it all.
Perfection.
Yeah. They've nailed the website.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the website looks amazing.
Yeah.
So
Thank
you're doing
you.
really good work.
Agree.
Okay. So in terms of, we talk about compassionate marketing quite a bit on our podcast.
Yeah.
How do you think your brand is working in the arena of compassionate marketing? How are people able to relate to your brand?
I think, compassionate marketing is about, understanding your customer and getting to know why they're purchasing from you, what their pain points are. And I think with a neon sign there, the people, you can work with a graphic designer and to sort of, if you're submitting your logo, for example, as a business owner, you're going to work with a graphic designer in order to make sure that the design is right. And they really talk about, what do you need this for? Is it going, in your business? Is it going in your retail store? Is it for a hospitality venue? Are you looking to just have your branding up, or are you wanting to increase the atmosphere?
Yeah.
It's really looking at the why behind why our customers are purchasing or wanting to purchase from us. Our like mission statement, I guess, or at Custom Neon is we want to illuminate life so that every moment is unforgettable.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So I think it's, yes, we're selling a product, but it's also like, how are we impacting lives? We hear from our customers and our reviews, which we get so many great reviews of people say, you've literally lit up my life. Like, this is amazing. My branding, their business that they've, set up and grown, or it's a startup and they're branding up on the wall in a neon light. I think, is awesome for them.
Amazing. And since you have such a big following on social media, do you think there is an element of compassionate marketing happening there, that people feel like they are in a community?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I think how is that happening?
I think with the, the sharing of content, whether it is that small business that's posted a picture on their own socials of their neon sign, and then we're sharing it, and it's like, that's, amazing exposure for them, but also exposure for us, showing, our products.
Yes.
And I think, there is that community where also engaging with all of our followers and chatting to them, replying to all of our comments, chatting in the DMs, talking about it. And our customers are really passionate about our product.
Yeah. Amazing. So what's the next step for Custom Neon in terms of where the business is currently going, as well as the marketing strategy?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, the B2B sort of side of our business is really growing, selling to different businesses. So I think that's something that we're considering with our marketing, looking at channels like YouTube and LinkedIn, and really creating content that's specific for those channels, sort of specifically talking to business owners and saying, let's show you what we can do for your business. Let's light your business up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of the strategy that we're wanting to move in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you were on YouTube in the future, what kind of content can we expect?
I think it's showing that the breadth of our product and showing the lots of different things that we can do with neon. I think I think that's what we're going to show on YouTube. There's some of the longer form content as well. I think that's what's probably different to socials, where you're getting that shorter, super engaging content. YouTube might be a little bit longer.
Okay, so if you could give an e-commerce business that is up and coming right now, if you could give them a tip on how to grow their business, what would it be?
Well, I think my biggest tip would be show off who you are as a business. The market, it's like, there's so many people out there, so many businesses out there. And I think showing off who you are as a business and why you're doing what you're doing is so important. And I think, we've seen success with that. And I think, show who you are, why you're doing, what your mission is. I think that is so important.
Awesome. Okay, so in terms of, you've answered sort of like the future of Custom Neon in terms of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see the business growing in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you at what point do you want to grow till?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I think to sort of keep doing what we're doing, sell to businesses, sell to people all over the world. We're currently heavily in the US, the UK, and Australia, but whether that's looking at other markets, yeah, we want to be. Well, I guess we are the most world's most known LED neon sign company, but I guess we want to just continue with that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. I also have a sort of more about you question. If, for example, an e-commerce business is growing and they're looking at hiring talent, Custom Neon has obviously done a good job. They hired you, and you've grown the business through social media so much.
Thank you.
What sort of things a new business should be offering to new talent? What would be attractive?
I think a really good workplace culture is very important.
Yeah.
If that's what I would look for in a role, somewhere where you feel confident going to work, you feel like you're part of an inclusive team, you feel welcomed. I think that's very important.
Yeah.
And you want to work for a company, I think, that you're passionate about. You're passionate about the product, about what they do.
Yeah.
Because you're going to work every day. You wanna enjoy your job. So I think that's integral.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you have a passion in life?
Yeah.
Sorry. Passion, sure. Do you have a purpose in life?
A purpose in life?
Yes.
Not
everyone does, and it's completely fine if you don't. But it is a question that I ask people. I find it quite interesting, and also it tells me a lot about a person.
Okay.
So I ask this question quite a lot.
Okay.
So do you have a purpose in life, and does it align with where you're working right now?
I think my purpose in life is, what I think is to leave an impact on the world in some way.
Yeah.
And make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, where I'm currently working, I think, like I said, we want to illuminate life so every moment is unforgettable. I think that aligns.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to ask you if Custom Neon is investing in email marketing at all.
Yes, we are. I'm doing all of the email marketing.
Awesome.
We've got a few different flows that we've got set up sort of for the marketing funnel. So like a welcome series flow for when people sign up to our email marketing on our website. Checkout abandonment, cart abandonment. What else we got? Product site abandonment.
Yeah.
Sort of the full stage funnel.
Yes.
And then we're also sending out marketing email campaigns.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So what platform are you using to do that?
Currently using Klaviyo.
Klaviyo.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you find it nice to use?
Yeah.
Because it's very popular with e-commerce
definitely
businesses at the moment.
Yeah. Super easy to use. It does, everything we want. And we've recently started to look into SMS marketing, which the platform also offers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing. What are your tips for business owners that are just getting into email marketing in e-commerce? Because you can do so many things with email marketing for e-commerce. You can do the abandoned cart flows, which are so important.
Yeah.
You can also do sunset flows, which is, re-engagement.
Yes.
You can also do VIP emails.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend they focus on to start with? And then how should they start growing their email marketing strategy?
I would suggest, or I think the most important thing, especially for us, has been to set up those funnels, the email flows within the funnel.
Yeah.
That, link back to what people are doing on your site.
Yeah.
Because it's, it's just a reminder to be like, oh, you go onto someone's site and then you get an email, oh, like you missed this, or we saw you checking out. And it's like, it's just an instant reminder to be like, I need to go back and purchase that.
Yeah.
So I think they are integral to set up, and you're going to see the revenue coming through from those week on week. Once you set it up, you can run A/B tests and things like that, but it's sort of set and forget. And like those sunset flows, re-engagement, all super important. I would definitely invest my time into setting all of those up.
Perfect. Awesome. So in terms of the initial emails that you started, were they always from Klaviyo, or did you do it in Shopify?
No, we don't use Shopify, but always been in Klaviyo.
Always been in Klaviyo.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. And you see major revenue coming through email marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, do you have a strategy behind how you engage or re-engage your
Mhm.
customers? Is it always just sharing the product and sharing perhaps a VIP discount,
Mhm.
or do you have other things that you're doing with your customers, like creating, I don't know, creating a community or sharing blog content,
Mhm.
things like that?
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely share. I think one of the main things that we do is we share like why they should purchase from Custom Neon, for example, sort of telling them what our USPs are.
Yes.
You know, whether that's that we offer a warranty,
Yeah.
we've got like a customer care team, we offer after sales support, things like that to really show them why they should purchase with us as opposed to somebody else. We also, we've got lots of tutorials and that blog style content that is, I guess, additional to the product that they're purchasing. It's like what else we can show you.
Yeah.
And I think that, that's definitely worth showing. And then, that community, we say, you know, even look at our social proof. We've got amazing reviews. We've got, you can check us out on socials and you'll see all of the different signs we've created if you're looking for inspiration, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So do you think that really adds to your brand identity and sort of loyalty
Yes,
from your
100%.
customers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Do you know if do you get a lot of repurchases?
I think it depends on that sort of target audience that we
Yeah.
were speaking about before. The businesses, I think, are probably more likely to repurchase, whether they're, you know, expanding to another location, getting another sign for another meeting room, something like that. Whereas the consumers, if they're purchasing for their wedding event or kids room, probably less likely to repurchase. But yeah, the repurchase rate is still definitely there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And would you know if that is a strategy that is being used in Facebook ads right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that is pretty integral for
100%.
Facebook ads.
Yeah.
So you guys are tapping into that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
All good.
If somebody wanted to find Custom Neon, how would they do it?
We are at Custom Neon on Instagram. We're on Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Pinterest, everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, customneon.com.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you for thank you for coming today and making the time to share your knowledge with us.